You know how people always say, you never really know someone until they show you who they are? I used to roll my eyes at that. I thought I knew Jenna better than anyone. We'd been together 5 years, married for 2. I could predict her moods, finish her sentences, even tell what kind of day she'd had just by the way she shut the car door when she came home. But all that confidence went straight out the window the night I realized the person I trusted most in this world might have been the one trying to kill me. It started small, subtle, just little things I brushed off because I didn't want to seem paranoid. The first time was a stomach ache that lasted for 2 days. I thought it was food poisoning. We'd gone out for tacos, and I blamed the salsa. Jenna didn't get sick, but I figured she just had a stronger stomach. Then it happened again. Nausea, cramps, vomiting. This time after a home-cooked dinner. Chicken soup she'd made special because she knew I'd been stressed from work. She ate a little herself, but not much. Said she wasn't hungry. I didn't put the pieces together right away. Why would I? She was my wife. The person bringing me blankets when I shivered, holding my hand while I lay curled up on the couch. But the more it happened, the harder it was to ignore. By the 4th time, when I was doubled over on the bathroom floor in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, a thought slipped in my mind that made my skin crawl. What if it's her? The idea felt insane. Impossible. Jenna, the woman who cried during dog food commercials, who wrote me little notes on post, just to remind me she loved me. She couldn't be trying to hurt me. Still, I couldn't shake it. So I started watching her. Not in a creepy way, just noticing things I'd ignored before. Like how she always insisted on cooking for me lately, even when she was tired. How she'd hover over the pot, shooing me away if I came too close. How she'd serve me first, always making sure I took the biggest portion. And then there were the excuses. Oh, I ate earlier. I'm not really hungry. My stomach's acting up. It became routine. She'd prepare a meal, eat barely a bite, and sit across from me with that same tight smile as I cleaned my plate. One night, after another round of soup that left me retching in the bathroom, I decided I needed answers. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I went to the kitchen. I opened the spice cabinet. Nothing unusual. I checked the fridge, the pantry. Still nothing. But then I spotted a little amber bottle shoved behind a stack of protein powder. No label, just a worn white cap. My heart pounded as I unscrewed it. Inside was a fine white powder. Odorless. Tasteless when I dabbed the tiniest bit on my tongue. And suddenly, the pattern made sense. The soups, the sauces, the smoothie she insisted on making me before work. The floor felt like it tilted under my feet. I snapped the lid back on and shoved the bottle into my pocket just as Jenna stepped out of the bedroom, her hair wet from the shower. "You're up early," she said, smiling like nothing was wrong. I forced a smile back, my hand shaking as it clutched the bottle in my pocket. "Yeah, just couldn't sleep." She walked over, kissed me lightly on the cheek, and started pulling eggs from the fridge. "I'll make us breakfast." My stomach turned. I mumbled something about running late for work, grabbed my keys, and got out of the house before I could lose it. That day at the office, I couldn't focus on a single thing. I sat at my desk, staring at the little amber bottle hidden in my drawer. My chest ached with betrayal. My wife, my Jenna, was she really trying to poison me? Or was there some other explanation I couldn't see? But no matter how I turned it over in my head, nothing made sense except the obvious. And that night, when she placed a steaming bowl of pasta in front of me, watching carefully as I twirled the first forkful, I made a decision that terrified me. I wasn't going to eat it. Not this time. I pushed the food around my plate, pretending, smiling when she asked how it tasted. And while she looked down at her phone, I quietly dumped half of it into a napkin and stuffed it into my pocket. The next morning, instead of heading straight to work, I drove to a lab downtown. I paid cash, handed over the napkin, and told them I needed a toxicity screen. The guy barely looked at me when he asked, "You think somebody's poisoning you?" My throat tightened. "Yeah," I whispered. "I think it's my wife." He gave me a strange look, but nodded. Results in a few days. Walking back to my car, I felt like I was living someone else's life. A nightmare version of it. And when I got home that night, Jenna was waiting for me at the door with another smile and another home-cooked meal. This time, I couldn't even pretend to eat. Because now, every bite she offered didn't look like love anymore. It looked like murder served on a plate. The wait for those results nearly drove me insane. Every day, I checked my phone like it was a lifeline, half hoping for the call, half dreading what it might confirm. Meanwhile, Jenna carried on like nothing was wrong, smiling, laughing, kissing me goodbye in the morning like we were the picture of a normal couple. But the more she acted like everything was fine, the more it tore me up inside. I started avoiding her meals. I claimed I ate a big lunch, that I wasn't hungry. I stopped drinking the coffee she brought me in the mornings, pouring it down the sink when she wasn't looking. Each time, she'd give me this searching look like she was testing me. And every time, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. 3 days later, the lab called. I stepped out of the office, heart hammering. "Is this Mr. Harris?" a calm voice asked. "Yeah, that's me. We ran the test on your sample. It came back positive for traces of thallium." I gripped the phone tighter. "Thallium? What the hell is that?" "It's a toxic heavy metal," he explained. "Used in rat poison, some pesticides, that sort of thing. Not something you'd normally ingest. At the levels we detected, long-term exposure could cause severe damage, organ failure, neurological issues. If you've been consuming it regularly, you need to see a doctor immediately." The world seemed to tilt under me. My knees went weak. "Thanks," I managed, though my voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. I hung up and just stood there in the stairwell, my mind spinning. Thallium. Hot poison. She wasn't just making me sick, she was slowly killing me. When I finally got home, Jenna was in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred a pot on the stove. The smell of tomato sauce filled the air. Normally, it would have made my mouth water. Now it made a rise in my throat. "Hey, you're early," she said with that same easy smile. "Dinner's almost ready." I couldn't hold it in anymore. I slammed my keys on the counter. "Stop. Just stop." She froze, spoon hovering in the pot. "What's wrong?" "You're poisoning me, Jenna." My voice cracked, but I forced the words out. "Don't you dare stand there and play dumb." "I know. I had the food tested." Her face went pale. Her hand shook, sauce dripping back into the pot. For a split second, I saw something in her eyes. Fear? Guilt? I couldn't tell. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. "Are you serious right now?" I slammed my fist on the counter, making her jump. "Don't you dare laugh at me. They found thallium in my food. Hot poison. Do you have any idea what you've been doing to me?" Her laughter faded into silence. She set the spoon down carefully, her expression shifting into something I couldn't read. "You weren't supposed to find out," she whispered. My heart stopped. That was it. No more pretending, no more excuses. She'd said it plain as day. "Why?" I demanded, my voice breaking. "Why would you do this to me? I loved you, Jenna. I gave you everything I had. What?" Her eyes glistened with tears. She pressed her hands against the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Because I felt trapped," she whispered. "Because I didn't know how to leave." "Esther de her," stunned. "So your solution was to kill me?" She shook her head frantically. "No, it wasn't like that. At first, I wanted you sick, weak, dependent on me. I thought if you needed me more, if you leaned on me more, maybe I'd feel wanted again. Maybe I'd feel important. But then it got easier. Too easy. And I kept telling myself I'd stop. Just one more time, just one more dose. But I couldn't stop." Her voice cracked into a sob. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I backed away, my whole body trembling. The woman in front of me wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger, a monster in familiar skin. "You're insane," I whispered. "You could have killed me." Tears streamed down her face. "I know," she said softly. And I hated myself every time I watched you get sick. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking so badly, I nearly dropped it. "I should call the cops right now." Her eyes widened in panic. She rushed toward me, grabbing my arm. "Please don't. Please. I'll stop, I swear. I'll get help. Therapy, rehab, whatever it takes. Just don't ruin both our lives over this." I ripped my arm free, my heart pounding like it was about to explode. "You ruined at the moment you decided to put poison in my food." The air between us was heavy, suffocating. She stood there sobbing, begging, while I stood there shaking, broken, staring at the person I thought I knew better than anyone. And in that moment, I realized something that hurt more than anything. It didn't matter what she said. It didn't matter how many tears she cried. because the trust we'd built, the love we'd shared, it was already gone. All that was left was betrayal. I don't think I'll ever forget the look in her eyes when I told her I couldn't trust her anymore. She kept crying, begging me not to call the police, saying we could work it out. But what she'd done wasn't something you work out over coffee and counseling. It wasn't something you fix with promises. So I did the only thing I could think to do. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. Her face went pale. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Don't." But I pressed the phone to my ear anyway. My hand shook so badly, I almost dropped it. When the dispatcher answered, I forced myself to say the words. "My wife's been poisoning me." It didn't feel real until the sirens pulled up outside. 2 officers came into the apartment, their presence filling the space with an authority I couldn't provide myself. Jenna stood frozen, tears still streaming, whispering my name like I was the one betraying her. When they read her rights and pulled her hands behind her back, something inside me cracked. I should have felt relief, safety. Instead, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped my insides out and left me standing there with nothing but pain. She didn't fight, didn't argue. She just let them lead her out of the apartment, her head down, her sobs breaking the silence. And then she was gone. The days that followed blurred together. Doctors confirmed the damage wasn't permanent, though they warned me I wasn't out of the woods yet. I need checkups, monitoring, blood work for months to come. But I was lucky. That's what they kept saying. Lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jenna leaning over the stove, stirring food she knew would hurt me. I heard her voice, soft and sweet, telling me to eat up. I remembered the way she'd wipe my forehead when I was sick, all while knowing she was the one making me that way. That kind of betrayal doesn't wash off. The prosecutor wanted me to testify. They said my story was strong, the evidence clear. But sitting there in that courtroom months later, watching Jenna in an orange jumpsuit with her hair tied back, I felt something I didn't expect. I felt grief. Not for the monster who poisoned me, but for the woman I thought she was, the woman who used to write love notes on Post-its, who'd fall asleep with her head on my chest, who I'd once believed would be the mother of my kids. That woman was gone, and the person sitting across from me was someone I didn't recognize. When it was my turn to speak, my voice cracked. She was my wife. I loved her. I trusted her with my life. And she tried to take it anyway. The judge nodded solemnly. Jenna sobbed into her hands. And in that moment, I knew there was no going back. She was sentenced. Years behind bars. The lawyers called it justice. Friends told me I'd done the right thing. But walking out of that courtroom, I didn't feel victorious. I felt broken. Because love isn't supposed to end like that. Marriage isn't supposed to turn into a crime scene. Even now, sometimes I catch myself thinking about her. Not the Jenna who poisoned me, but the Jenna I married. The one I thought I knew. And I wonder if she was ever real at all, or if she was just a mask hiding the truth underneath. The truth that the person closest to you can sometimes be the one who cuts the deepest. And if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's this. Trust isn't something you give blindly. Because once it's gone, once it's shattered, you can never get it back. And if you've been following these stories, your support means everything. Every view, every listen, every subscribe. It motivates me to keep going, to keep bringing these raw, emotional stories straight to you. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It keeps me going, and it makes it possible to share even more stories that matter. When I look back at the last few years of my life, I still can't decide if I was blind, naive, or just desperate for love. My ex-fiancée, Rachel, was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. She was warm, funny, and had this way of making people feel like they were the only one in the room. She knew how to light up a conversation, how to charm everyone she met. And for the longest time, I thought that charm was just part of what made her special. But charm, I've learned, can also be a weapon. We met at a friend's birthday dinner. She was sitting across the table from me, wearing this deep red dress that seemed to silence the whole room when she walked in. I remember laughing at every joke she cracked, hanging on every word she said, like I just stumbled into some kind of dream. By the end of the night, I had her number. By the end of the week, we'd been on 3 dates. And by the end of the month, I was telling my best friend I'd found the one. It moved fast, maybe too fast. But when you're in love, you don't see the warning signs. You just see the version of them you want to believe in. The first time I felt something was off was about 6 months in. We were at a cafe near her apartment, and she went to the counter to grab our drinks. Her phone lit up on the table. I didn't mean to look. It was instinct, a quick glance. But what I saw burned into my brain. The message read, "Can't wait to see you again tonight. Last night was amazing." My heart stopped, but she came back. I tried to keep my face neutral, but inside I was crumbling. I asked her casually who'd been texting. She didn't even blink. "Oh, just a coworker," she said, slipping the phone in her purse. "We've been working late on a project." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But that message, that wasn't about spreadsheets and deadlines. Still, I pushed the thought away. Love makes you stupid. It makes you bend the truth until it fits the picture you want. Over the next few months, the red flags kept piling up. She'd disappear for hours with vague explanations. She'd guard her phone like it was a diary written in code. She'd come home smelling like cologne I didn't wear. And every time I confronted her, she had an excuse. She'd get defensive, flip the script, accuse me of being controlling or paranoid. Somehow, every fight ended with me apologizing. Somehow, she always came out looking like the victim. The gaslighting was so subtle, I didn't even realize it was happening at first. But slowly, I started doubting myself more than I doubted her. Was I imagining things? Was I too insecure? Was I really the problem here? My friends started noticing too. My best friend, Chris, pulled me aside one night after we'd all been out for drinks. "Man," he said, lowering his voice, "I don't like the way she talks to you. It's off. Like she's always one step away from making you feel crazy." I brushed it off, telling him he didn't understand her the way I did. But his words stuck with me. The breaking point came a night I found an unfamiliar bracelet in her car. It was gold, delicate, clearly not mine. When I asked her about it, she smirked, and said, "Oh, must have been my friend's. She left it there last week." Her friend, right? I couldn't take it anymore. My chest felt tight, my hands shaking as I stared at her. "Rachel," I said, my voice breaking, "just tell me the truth. Are you seeing someone else?" For the first time, she didn't deny it. She just looked at me with this cold, almost bored expression and said, "And if I am?" That moment changed me. Because betrayal isn't just about cheating. It's about the realization that the person you trusted most was never really who you thought they were. And as much as it shattered me, as much as it burned every piece of love I'd left, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. This wasn't the end of the story. This was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. After Rachel dropped that bomb, and if I am, I just sat there in her living room, staring at the floor like I could burn a hole straight through the carpet. She didn't even seem fazed. She poured herself a glass of wine, sat on the couch, and scrolled through her phone like she hadn't just crushed the last bit of faith I had in us. The silence between us was suffocating. Finally, I grabbed my keys and walked out. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might give out. I didn't even know where I was going. I just drove. 10 minutes later, I was parked outside Chris's place, knocking on his door like a man possessed. He opened the door, groggy in sweatpants, and I didn't even let him ask questions. The second I stepped inside, I broke. I told him everything, about the texts, the lies, the bracelet, and finally, her cold admission. Chris listened, his jaw tightening with every word. When I finished, he shook his head. "Man, I hate to say this, but I knew it. I've known it for a while. I just didn't want to hurt you. She's been playing you." Hearing it out loud made me feel like a fool. The next few days were a blur. Rachel barely reached out, and when she did, her messages were short, clipped, almost annoying. She wasn't even trying to pretend anymore. And I couldn't wrap my head around how she could be so detached after everything we'd been through. I'd been planning to propose to her. I'd already picked out a ring. It was sitting in the top drawer of my dresser, hidden under old t-shirts. The thought of that ring made me sick. But the thing about heartbreak is, it doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in. It's a slow poison. One minute you're angry, the next you're crying in the shower, and then you're staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if you'll ever feel normal again. I wanted answers. I want to know who he was, the guy she'd been sneaking around with. So one night, against my better judgment, I followed her. She said she was working late, but I knew that lie by heart now. I parked across from her office building, waiting. Sure enough, around 9 p.m., she came out, not in her work clothes, but in a black dress I'd never seen before. She looked radiant, like she was excited, like she was in love. And then he showed up, tall, sharp suit, smug smile. He kissed her like they'd been doing it forever. My stomach turned, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. I watched them walk into a restaurant together, laughing, holding hands. And that's when the weight of it all hit me like a truck. It wasn't just cheating. It wasn't some fling. This was something deeper, something she chose. I sat in that car for over an hour, tears streaming down my face, every part of me screaming to storm in there and cause a scene. But I didn't. I just sat there, drowning in the realization that the woman I loved wasn't mine anymore, and maybe never really had been. When she got home later, I confronted her. This time, I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her I saw them. I told her I knew everything. She didn't even flinch. Her exact words? "I'm not sorry. I haven't been happy with you for a long time. He makes me feel alive." Alive. That word cut deeper than any blade. Because all I could think was, what was I to her this whole time? Dead weight. A placeholder? We argued until our voices cracked. I told her she destroyed me. That she could have just been honest instead of stringing me along. She laughed. Actually laughed. "You would have never let me go," she said, like I was some pathetic dog clinging to scraps. That was it. The breaking point. I packed a bag and left that night. I didn't care where I went. I just knew I couldn't stay there another second. But the thing about betrayal is, it doesn't end when you walk out the door. It follows you. It seeps into your bones. Every memory becomes tainted. Every "I love you" she ever whispered feels like a lie. The weeks after were brutal. I was hollow. Work felt meaningless. Food tasted like cardboard. Nights are the worst. Lying in bed, hearing echoes of her laugh, her voice like she was haunting me. Chris was my lifeline. He kept me from sinking completely. He'd drag me out of the house, sit with me while I ranted, let me cry without judgment. And slowly, painfully, I started piecing myself back together. But Rachel wasn't done. One night, she showed up at my apartment. Drunk, makeup smudged, hair a mess. She banged on the door until I opened it. When I did, she stumbled in and collapsed on the couch, crying. "I made a mistake," she slurred. "He's not what I thought. I miss you." I stood there, frozen. A part of me wanted to scream at her. Another part wanted to hold her, to believe her, to go back to the way things were. But deep down, I knew the truth. Once someone poisoned your trust, it never comes back the same. I told her to leave. She begged, clinging to my arm, whispering all the sweet words she used to hook me in the first place. But I stayed firm. For the first time in months, I chose myself. And as I watched her stumble out into the night, I realized something. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a rebirth. Time has a strange way of stretching and collapsing after heartbreak. Days felt endless, yet somehow months slipped by before I realized I was finally breathing again. At first, everything reminded me of Rachel. The coffee shop where we had our first date. The park bench where she told me she loved me for the first time. Even the grocery store had ghosts. She'd always grab the same brand of cereal, and now I couldn't even look at it without feeling sick. But slowly, those memories started losing their power. I'd walk past that same cafe, and instead of choking up, I'd think. That's where I learned how easy it is to fall for someone who doesn't deserve you. It still hurt, but it was different. More like a scar than an open wound. Chris helped a lot. He was relentless in reminding me that I was worth more than scraps of love. He'd say, "Dude, she wasn't your forever. She was your lesson." At first, I rolled my eyes at that. But now, I get it. The truth is, Rachel broke me. But she also showed me the parts of myself I'd been ignoring. The part that allowed someone to gaslight me. The part that thought love meant tolerating disrespect. The part that was so afraid of being alone, I clung to poison just to feel wanted. That's the thing about betrayal. It guts you, but it also strips everything bare. And once you're bare, you have no choice but to rebuild. Months later, I heard through a mutual friend that Rachel's relationship with that guy had already imploded. Apparently, he cheated on her too. And while a tiny, petty part of me wanted to smirk and say, karma, the bigger part just felt sad. Not for her. She made her bed. But sad that so many people live their lives chasing that high, that rush, never realizing what real love is supposed to feel like. I don't hate her anymore. Honestly, I don't feel much of anything toward her now. She's just a chapter 1 finished reading. And me? I'm still here. Healing, learning, trying to be better. I've started going to the gym more, cooking for myself, even picking up hobbies I dropped years ago. I don't feel whole yet, but I feel me. And that's more than I could have asked for a year ago. Sometimes late at night, I'll think back to that moment in her apartment, the way she smirked and said, and if I am, that moment used to crush me. Now, it reminds me of how far I've come. I survived it. I'm stronger for it. And if you're listening to this, maybe you've been through something similar. Maybe someone betrayed you, poisoned your trust, made you question your worth. If that's you, let me tell you what I wish someone told me back then. You will survive this. You will be okay. You will rebuild. It doesn't happen overnight. Some days it feels like you're drowning, but slowly you'll find the surface. You'll breathe again. You'll feel sunlight again. I used to think Rachel's betrayal was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But now, I see it as the thing that forced me to finally value myself. And maybe that's the silver lining in all of this. So if you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening. Sharing this stuff isn't easy, but it means the world knowing someone out there cares enough to hear it. Honestly, every time someone subscribes, it feels like a little reminder that my voice matters, that these stories matter. It gives me the motivation to keep going, to keep opening up, and to keep bringing more stories like this your way. So if you want to hear more, hit that subscribe. It keeps me going, and it means more than you know. I've started going to the gym more, cooking for myself, even picking up hobbies I dropped years ago. I don't feel whole yet, but I feel me. And that's more than I could have asked for a year ago. Sometimes late at night, I'll think back to that moment in her apartment, the way she smirked and said, and if I am, that moment used to crush me. Now, it reminds me of how far I've come. I survived it. I'm stronger for it. And if you're listening to this, maybe you've been through something similar. Maybe someone betrayed you, poisoned your trust, made you question your worth. If that's you, let me tell you what I wish someone told me back then. You will survive this. You will be okay. You will rebuild. It doesn't happen overnight. Some days it feels like you're drowning, but slowly you'll find the surface. You'll breathe again. You'll feel sunlight again. I used to think Rachel's betrayal was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But now, I see it as the thing that forced me to finally value myself. And maybe that's the silver lining in all of this. So if you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening. Sharing this stuff isn't easy, but it means the world knowing someone out there cares enough to hear it. Honestly, every time someone subscribes, it feels like a little reminder that my voice matters, that these stories matter. It gives me the motivation to keep going, to keep opening up, and to keep bringing more stories like this your way. So if you want to hear more, hit that subscribe. It keeps me going, and it means more than you know. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to snoop through someone's phone. Honestly, I used to think that was the ultimate sign of insecurity. If you can't trust your partner, why even be with them, right? But when it came to Emily, my fiancée, I reached a point where my gut wouldn't shut up. It started small. She used to be an open book, leaving her phone face up on the counter, texting me memes during work, laughing at TikToks while we cooked dinner together. But about a year into our engagement, things shifted. She got secretive. The phone was always face down. Notifications turned off. She'd smile at texts and tilt the screen away. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself I was overthinking. But then came the night, I walked into the kitchen and found her whispering into the phone. The second she saw me, she hung up, smiling too wide, saying, "Just my mom." Her mom lives in another state and doesn't exactly whisper. That was the first crack. The second crack came a week later when she told me she was going out for girls' night. Normally, she'd send me selfies with her friends, update me throughout the night, that kind of thing. But this time, radio silence. I didn't hear from her until the next morning when she stumbled back into the apartment, smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked about it, she laughed it off. Oh, the bartender hugged me, probably him. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to, but my gut wouldn't let me. So, one night, when she left her phone unattended to shower, I caved. My hand was shaking so badly, I almost dropped the damn thing. I knew if I looked, there was no going back. But something in me needed the truth, even if it shattered me. And it did. The messages were there, plain as day. Dozens of them. From a contact saved under Aaron, work. They weren't about work. They were about secret dinners, hotel rooms, late night calls. They were filled with pet names, inside jokes, and lines that made my stomach churn. I can't wait to have you again. I wish I could fall asleep next to you instead of him. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. When she came out of the shower, towel wrapped around her, humming to herself, I couldn't even look at her the same way. I put her phone back exactly how I found it and sat on the couch, numb. She plopped down next to me, water dripping from her hair, smiling like nothing was wrong. And in that moment, I realized something that broke me even more than the text did. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't struggling with guilt. She wasn't wrestling with a tough decision. She was happy. Happy living a double life. Happy keeping me in the dark. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. My brain was spinning too fast, my chest too tight. Instead, I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship in my head. Every I love you, every kiss, every plan for the future, all of it felt tainted now. The next day, I tried to act normal, but I couldn't. She noticed, of course. "Babe, what's wrong?" she asked, touching my arm. I wanted to scream, "What's wrong? You're cheating on me. That's what's wrong." But instead, I just muttered, "Nothing. Just tired." Because here's the thing. Once you know, you can't unknow. And pretending feels impossible. The following week was torture. Every time she smiled at her phone, I felt sick. Every time she said she was working late, I pictured her with him. Every touch from her felt fake, like she was acting in a play I didn't audition for. Finally, I hit my breaking point. It was a Friday night, and she said she was going to her sister's house. Something in me snapped. The second she left, I grabbed my jacket and followed her. I told myself I just wanted confirmation, undeniable proof, because part of me still clung to the hope that I'd misunderstood everything. But hope is a cruel thing. I followed her car across town until she pulled into the parking lot of the fancy restaurant. And then I saw him. Aaron. Tall, well-dressed, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. She ran into his arms like a scene out of a movie, kissed him like I didn't exist. My stomach dropped. My hands clenched the steering wheel so tight they hurt. I sat there for what felt like hours, watching them laugh, touch, lean into each other like two people madly in love. And the whole time, my chest felt like it was caving in. When she finally came home that night, smelling of perfume and wine, she curled up next to me on the couch like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek and whispered, "I missed you." And for the first time since I met her, I didn't say it back. Because now I wasn't just suspicious. I knew, and knowing changes everything. The next morning, I woke up before Emily. She was lying next to me, hair fanned across the pillow, breathing softly. She looked peaceful, innocent, like the girl I fell in love with years ago. For a second, I almost convinced myself it was all a nightmare. Then I remembered the way she kissed him, the way her arms wrapped around him like they belonged there. And that peaceful image shattered. I got up quietly, sat at the kitchen table, and just stared at my coffee. My hands were trembling. My chest felt tight. I wanted to scream, to wake her up and demand the truth. But the words stuck in my throat. Because here's the thing about betrayal. You think you'll explode with rage the second you know, but the truth is, it's paralyzing. It's like your brain short circuits. You can't process it all at once, so you just freeze. That day at work, I couldn't concentrate. I kept replaying everything in my head. The dinners, the late nights, the lies. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected it to be her, confessing everything, apologizing, begging for forgiveness. But it never came. Instead, she texted me like normal. "Good morning, babe. Hope your day goes well. I love you." Reading those words made my stomach churn. They weren't real anymore. They were just lines in a script she'd been performing for months. By the time I got home, I knew I couldn't keep pretending. She was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, music playing from her phone. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, how was your day?" And something inside me cracked. I put my bag down, leaned against the counter, and asked, "Who's Aaron?" The knife froze mid-chop. For the first time in weeks, I saw her mask slip. It was just for a second, but I saw it. Fear, panic. Then it was gone. She set the knife down, turned to me, and forced a laugh. "Aaron? He's a co-worker." "What?" "Don't lie to me, Emily." My voice was shaking. "I saw the texts. I saw you with him." Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "You followed me?" That's what she latched onto. Not the cheating, not the betrayal. The fact that I followed her. "Yes," I snapped. "Because you were lying to me, and I needed the truth." She crossed her arms, glaring. "That's insane, you know that? Snooping through my phone, following me around. You sound obsessed." Her words hit like a slap. Somehow, she was flipping it back on me, making me the villain. I felt my anger boil over. "Don't you dare try to turn this on me," I said, my voice rising. "You've been sneaking around behind my back for months. Don't act like I'm the problem here." She looked at me, then really looked at me. And for the first time, she didn't try to deny it. She didn't even bother with excuses. She just shrugged like it was no big deal and said, "I didn't mean for it to happen, but he makes me feel alive in a way you don't anymore." Those words broke me. All this time, I've been killing myself to be a good fiancé, to build a future for us. And in the end, I was just boring to her. Disposable. I couldn't even speak. My throat closed up. My chest felt heavy, like I couldn't get air. She kept going. "Look, I didn't want to hurt you. I don't know. It happened. But I love him. Love him. That was it. The knife in the gut." I grabbed my bag, shoved some clothes into it, and told her I was done. She cried, begged me not to leave, swore she didn't mean it the way it sounded. But I couldn't stay. Not after that. I crashed at Chris's place that night. He didn't even ask questions, just handed me a beer and sat with me while I tried to make sense of everything. I barely slept. My brain wouldn't stop racing. One minute, I was furious, imagining all the ways I could ruin her life. The next, I was sobbing, wondering what was so wrong with me that she needed someone else. The next morning, my phone blew up with messages from her. Apologies. Please. Promises to change. She swore it was over with Aaron. She swore she'd fight for us. But I couldn't trust her. Not anymore. I typed out a response, deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again. What could I even say? Nothing would undo what she'd done. Nothing would erase the image of her in his arms. So I put my phone down, stared out the window, and let the silence wash over me. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was done. The next few days blurred together, like I was moving underwater. I kept showing up to work, but my head wasn't there. Everything felt hollow. When I got home, the silence was crushing, like the walls were closing in. I couldn't stop replaying that night in my head. My dad standing there, flushed with anger, yelling at me for something I didn't do. My mom, trying to calm him down, but also letting him believe whatever he wanted to believe. And me, sitting there, trying to defend myself while my own father looked at me like I was some stranger who had betrayed him. It messed with me more than I thought it would. He wasn't just my dad. He was supposed to be the guy who always had my back. But in that moment, he didn't even give me the benefit of the doubt. I kept thinking about what my coworker had said too. That little offhand comment about me being out when I wasn't. That was the spark, wasn't it? Some rumor or some innocent misunderstanding, and suddenly my dad believed I was sneaking around or lying. And the worst part, he never asked me directly before exploding. He just assumed. I didn't call him. He didn't call me either. Days turned into weeks, and the silence between us got louder. I saw my mom a couple times when she dropped off food or asked if I needed anything. But even she seemed caught in the middle, like she was scared of saying the wrong thing. I wanted to break the silence. I wanted to call him, tell him he was wrong, scream at him for not trusting me, beg him to just believe me. But pride kept me from picking up the phone. Pride and hurt. Then one night, around midnight, I got a text from him. Just one line. "Are you still my kid?" I stared at it for so long, I thought my phone might die in my hand. That one sentence hit me harder than all the yelling combined. Because beneath the anger and the accusations, there it was, his fear, his insecurity. I typed and deleted at least 10 replies. At one point, I wrote, "Not if you don't trust me." Then I erased it. Another time I wrote, "Always," but that didn't feel right either. Finally, I just wrote, "I never stopped being your kid. You just stopped seeing me like one." He didn't reply. Not that night, not the next day. And part of me thought maybe that was it. Maybe we were never going to be the same again. A week later, he showed up at my place unannounced. He looked older than I remembered. His shoulders slumped, his face lined, his eyes tired. He held a paper bag in his hand, and when he stepped inside, he set it on the counter. "Your favorite," he muttered. It was takeout from the diner we used to go to every Friday when I was a kid. Burgers and fries, greasy as hell, wrapped in wax paper that always stuck to the bun. We didn't eat right away. We just stood there, staring at each other. Then finally, he sat down at the table, and I sat across from him. He cleared his throat. I was wrong. I didn't say anything. I just let him talk. I let something stupid get in my head, and I took it out on you. I should have asked. I should have trusted you. But instead, I lashed out like some old fool who doesn't know better. And the worst part is, I hurt you. I could see in your face, and I still kept going. His voice cracked a little, and he rubbed his hands together, staring at them like they might give him the right words. "I don't want to lose you," he said finally. "Not over something this dumb. You're my kid. Always will be." I wanted to stay mad. I wanted to hold on to that anger, because it made me feel like I had control. But seeing him there, vulnerable and broken down, I couldn't. "I didn't do anything wrong," I said quietly. "I know," he whispered back. And in that moment, something shifted. The anger didn't disappear overnight, and the trust wasn't magically restored. But it was a start. We ate the burgers, barely talking, just sitting in the quiet. But it wasn't the crushing silence anymore. It was the kind that felt like maybe, just maybe, things could be repaired. It's been months since then. Things aren't perfect. We're still figuring it out. But we've both been trying, and that's more than I thought I'd get. Sometimes late at night, I still think about that fight. About how fast everything spiraled, how close I came to losing the relationship with the man who raised me. And it reminds me that trust is fragile, even with family, maybe especially with family. But here's the thing, even when it feels broken beyond repair, sometimes it's not. Sometimes all it takes is one step toward each other, one admission of fault, one moment of honesty. And if you've ever felt like giving up on someone you love, don't. Not right away. Not without trying. Because as much as it hurt, I'm glad I didn't give up on him. And I think he's glad he didn't give up on me either. If you're still here listening, I just want to say thank you. Sharing these stories isn't easy, but every time you support this channel, it gives me the motivation to keep going and bring more real stories like this to you. So if you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe. It honestly means the world to me. You ever have one of those moments where someone says something so casual, so offhand, that it changes everything you thought you knew? That's what happened to me the night my entire perspective on my relationship flipped upside down. I was sitting in a booth at this little pizza place near my apartment. It was nothing fancy. Sticky tables, loud arcade machines in the corner, the smell of garlic and melted cheese in the air. I just finished a long shift at work, and I was waiting for my girlfriend, Madison, to show up. We planned to meet after her night class and grab dinner together. The waitress, a girl maybe my age with pink streaks in her hair, stopped by to refill my soda. She glanced at the empty seat across from me and asked, "Your girlfriend running late again?" I blinked. Again, she froze for a second, like she hadn't meant to say it out loud. Then she laughed awkwardly and said, "Oh, never mind. I just see you waiting alone a lot." She walked away, and I just sat there, that word ringing in my ears. Again, Madison wasn't usually late. In fact, she prided herself on being on time, almost to the point of annoyance. She'd tease me if I showed up even 5 minutes late to pick her up. But now this stranger was telling me I'd been sitting here alone, more than once, waiting for her. When Madison finally walked in, smiling and brushing her hair out of her face, I didn't say anything. I just studied her. She slid into the booth, kissed me quickly, and started talking about her class. I nodded along, but that single word, again, kept echoing in my head. Later that night, when we were back at my place, I casually asked her, "Hey, you ever run late to meet me before?" Like more than once. She gave me this sharp look, the kind you give someone when you think they're fishing for something. "What?" "Just wondering." She shrugged. "Maybe once or twice, but not really. You know, I hate being late." And that was that. She turned her attention back to her phone, scrolling through Instagram like the conversation had never even happened. But I couldn't let it go. Over the next few weeks, little things started to stand out. Nights when she said she had class, but didn't bring her books home. Times when she said she was too tired to hang out, but her social media showed her out with friends. The way her phone was always flipped upside down on the table now, when before she didn't care if it buzzed in front of me. None of it was damning on its own, but stacked together, it formed this uneasy picture I couldn't ignore. The breaking point came one Friday night. We planned to watch a movie at my place. She texted me last minute saying she had to study at the library for a big test. Something in my gut twisted. I decided to drive over there. Not to catch her, I told myself, just to surprise her. Bring her a coffee, say hi, that kind of thing. But when I pulled into the library lot, her car wasn't there. I sat there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel, my heart pounding in my chest. I told myself maybe she'd gotten a ride. Maybe she parked somewhere else. But deep down I knew. I ended up driving around aimlessly for almost an hour, trying to convince myself I was overthinking it. Finally, I headed home. When I walked in my apartment building, I saw her. Madison, standing in the lobby. Not with books, not looking tired from studying, but laughing. Laughing with some guy I didn't recognize. He had his hand on her arm, leaning close like they were sharing some inside joke. She didn't see me right away, but when she did, her smile froze. "Hey," she said quickly, stepping away from him. "What are you doing here?" I stared at her, then at him. He gave me this awkward half nod and muttered something about heading out before slipping out the door. Madison's face went pale. "It's not what it looks like," she blurted. But my chest felt hollow, like the floor had dropped out beneath me. Because maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe there was some explanation. But after weeks of noticing things, after hearing that waitress is casual again, after seeing all the signs I didn't want to see, my gut told me it was exactly what it looked like. I didn't say anything. I just walked past her, up the stairs to my apartment. I heard her calling my name, her footsteps behind me, but I locked the door before she could follow me in. And for the first time since we'd started dating, I realized I didn't know if I could believe a single word she said anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of traffic outside my window, every sound amplified by the silence between my ears. Madison kept blowing up my phone calls, texts, voicemails. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Around 3 in the morning, I finally turned my phone off and tossed it across the room. My chest felt heavy, like someone had tied a weight around my ribs and kept tightening the rope. When the sun finally came up, I dragged myself into the shower, hoping the hot water would wash away the sick feeling in my stomach. It didn't. By the time I got to work, I looked like hell. My coworkers noticed. One of them asked if I was okay, and I just mumbled something about not sleeping well. The truth was I wasn't okay. I hadn't been okay since that moment in the lobby. The look on Madison's face when she saw me, it wasn't guilt-free. It wasn't innocent. It was the look of someone caught red-handed. I kept trying to play devil's advocate with myself. Maybe it was just a friend. Maybe she really was studying earlier and bumped into him afterward. Maybe it was harmless flirting. But deep down I knew. The pit in my stomach wouldn't let me pretend otherwise. That evening, when I got home, she was waiting outside my apartment. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept either. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I hesitated, but eventually unlocked the door. She followed me inside and stood awkwardly in the middle of the living room, wringing her hands like she didn't know what to do with them. "It wasn't what it looked like," she started. I laughed bitterly. "You've said that before. How many times am I supposed to believe you?" Her eyes flashed. "So you're just going to assume the worst? You're not even going to let me explain?" "Then explain." I crossed my arms, because from where I was standing, it looked like you and some guy were a lot closer than just study partners. She bit her lip, her eyes darting toward the floor. "He's just a friend, a guy from my class. We've been working on a project together, and we were just joking around in the lobby. That's all. Then why lie about the library? That made her freeze. I drove by, I said flatly. Your car wasn't there. Don't tell me you walked. Don't tell me you were somewhere else studying. You said library, but I didn't see you. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. A tear slipped down her cheek. I didn't want you to get the wrong idea, she whispered. I shook my head, letting out a hollow laugh. The wrong idea? Madison, the only reason I have the wrong idea is because you keep putting me in situations where it looks like I should. If it's really innocent, why lie? She collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was her muffled sobbing. I stood there, arms crossed, my heart breaking even as my anger simmered. Finally, she looked up, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Because I didn't want you to know, I dropped the class. That threw me off. What? She sniffled. I dropped it 2 weeks ago. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd be disappointed. You always talk about how important school is, how proud you are that I'm going for this degree, and I couldn't face that conversation. So I pretended. I kept saying I had class. And yeah, I started hanging out with him instead sometimes. But it wasn't, she broke off, shaking her head. It wasn't cheating. I swear. I just stared at her. The anger in me didn't disappear, but it shifted. Now there was confusion, too. Was she lying again? Just layering excuses on top of excuses? Or was she actually telling me the truth? Why didn't you just tell me? I asked quietly, because I didn't want to see the look on your face when I admitted I failed. Her voice cracked again, and for a second, I saw not the Madison who had lied to me, but the Madison who used to curl up next to me on the couch and talk about her dreams, her fears, her future. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But that image of her in the lobby, laughing with that guy, his hand on her arm, that wouldn't leave my head. So I told her the truth. I don't know if I can believe you anymore. That broke her. She sobbed harder, clutching a throw pillow to her chest like it could hold her together. I love you, she choked out. Please don't throw this away. I made a mistake lying about class, but I didn't cheat. I swear on everything, I didn't cheat. Her words hung heavy in the air. I didn't know what to do with them. My chest hurt from the weight of it all, from the tug of war between my heart and my head. Finally, I said, I need time. She nodded miserably, wiping her face. Okay, I'll give you time. She left not long after, and I sat alone in the apartment, staring at the door long after it shut. Time. That's what I asked for. But I didn't know if time was going to fix what was already broken. Because even if she hadn't cheated, the trust between us had already cracked. And trust is the one thing you can't rebuild easily once it's gone. The days that followed felt like walking around with a cracked rib. Every breath hurt, but nobody could see why. Madison and I weren't broken up, not officially, but we weren't really together either. We texted here and there. She sent long paragraphs about how much she loved me, how much she regretted lying, how she'd do anything to earn back my trust. But my replies were short. Okay, thanks. I need space. And I did. Space to figure out whether I could believe her, whether the person I thought I knew was still there under all the lies. The truth is, trust doesn't shatter with one swing. It chips away slowly. And for weeks, months even, I've been noticing those little cracks. The late arrivals, the upside-down phone, the stories that didn't quite add up. And once you see cracks, you can't unsee them. About a week later, my buddy Tyler convinced me to grab a drink with him. I hadn't told him the whole story yet, just that Madison and I were going through stuff. He's known me since high school, so of course he saw right through it. Look, man, he said, leaning on the bar. If she's lying now, she'll lie again. People don't just accidentally make up whole schedules to cover their tracks. I sighed. It's not that simple. Yeah, it is, he shot back. It's exactly that simple. She either respects you enough to tell you the truth, or she doesn't. And from where I'm standing, she doesn't. His words hit harder than I wanted to admit. Later that night, when I got back to my apartment, Madison was waiting again. She was curled up on the steps, her hoodie pulled tight, her face pale. She stood up when she saw me, and my heart twisted because she looked so small, so broken. Can we please talk? She asked. I didn't answer right away. I just unlocked the door and walked inside. She followed quietly. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, this canyon of silence between us. Finally, she spoke. "I know I messed up," she said softly. "And I know saying sorry isn't enough. But I swear to you I didn't cheat. I lied about class because I didn't want you to see me as a failure. That's the truth. Believe it or don't, but that's it." I looked at her, really looked at her. Her eyes were red from crying, her hands trembling in her lap. She wasn't acting. If she was lying, she deserved an Oscar. "Then what about him?" I asked. "The guy in the lobby." Her face crumpled. "He's just someone who noticed me when I was down. He knew I dropped the class because he dropped it too. We started talking, and yeah, maybe I leaned on him more than I should have. But it never went further than that. I swear to you it didn't." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My chest felt heavy, like all the air in the room had been sucked out. "Do you realize what you've done to me?" I asked quietly. She looked confused. "You made me doubt myself. You made me question every memory, every moment we've had together. I don't know what's real anymore. That's worse than cheating. It's making me feel crazy." She burst into tears again, clutching at my arm. Please don't say that. I'll do anything to prove it to you. I'll cut him off. I'll show you my phone. I'll be wherever you want me to be 24/7. Just don't give up on us." Her desperation broke something in me. Because I loved her. I really did. But love without trust is like building a house on sand. It won't last. "Madison," I said, my voice shaking, "I can't keep living like this. Wondering every time you're late, every time your phone buzzes, every time you say you're somewhere else. That's not a relationship. That's prison." She stared at me, eyes wide, like she didn't believe what I was saying. "So that's it? You're just giving up on us?" I swallowed hard. "I'm not giving up. You already did. The moment you decided lying was easier than telling me the truth." Her sobs filled the room, tearing through me, but I didn't take it back. I couldn't. She left that night with her face buried in her hands, and the sound of her crying in the hallway will probably haunt me for the rest of my life. For weeks afterward, I felt like a ghost. The apartment was too quiet, the bed too big. The routines we'd shared turned into sharp reminders of what I'd lost. But slowly, I started to breathe easier. The weight on my chest got lighter. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could see clearly. Sometimes, the hardest thing isn't holding on. It's letting go. Because when you let go, you're not just losing a person, you're losing the version of yourself you were with them. And that's terrifying. But I knew deep down I'd done the right thing. Because I'd rather be alone than with someone who makes me question my own reality. And if you've ever been there, standing on the edge of love and doubt, I hope you choose yourself. Because in the end, trust isn't something you beg for. It's something you're given freely. And once it's gone, there's no dragging it back. If you made it all the way to the end of this story, thank you. It means more than you know. Sharing these stories takes a lot out of me. But every time you subscribe, it gives me the motivation to keep going and bring more real, raw stories to you. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really does keep me going. I don't usually tell people this story, because every time I start, they look at me like I'm either exaggerating or flat out lying. But the truth is, it's one of those moments in life where everything you thought you knew about trust, family, and loyalty gets flipped on its head in the ugliest way possible. It started with my brother, Ryan. He's only 2 years younger than me. But personality-wise, we couldn't be more different. I'm the quiet, responsible one. The type who double-checks locks before bed, pays bills early, and keeps a running to-do list in my head at all times. Ryan, on the other hand, is all charm and chaos. The kind of guy who can walk into a room and instantly make friends, but also the type who forgets his rent until the landlord is knocking at his door. We'd always had a weird push and pull dynamic. I admired his confidence, but I hated how reckless he could be. He claimed he envied my discipline, but I could tell he thought I was boring. Still, no matter how different we were, we had one unspoken rule. We never crossed each other. Family was family, or so I thought. Back then, I was dating Emily. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and I honestly thought she might be the one. She wasn't flashy, she didn't try to be the loudest voice in the room, but she had this warmth that drew me in. She cared about the small things, like remembering my favorite coffee order or making me playlists for long drives. With her, life felt stable, like I finally had a partner who matched my rhythm. Ryan liked her too. Or at least, that's what I believed at first. Whenever Emily was around, he'd light up, teasing her, making her laugh, playing the role of the goofy younger brother who just wanted to be included. I figured it was harmless. She brushed off his antics with an eye roll and a smile, and I didn't think much of it. Until one night. Emily had left her phone charging in the kitchen while she and I watched a movie. She fell asleep on my shoulder, and I remember feeling this strange sense of peace. But then her phone buzzed, and buzzed again. I wasn't the type to snoop, but the screen lit up, and the name that flashed across it made my stomach drop. It was Ryan. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Siblings and partners text all the time. Maybe he was sending her a funny video or asking if I was home. But when the notifications kept coming, one after another, I couldn't stop myself from looking. And what I saw nearly made me wake her up right then and there. The messages weren't outright romantic, but they were way too personal. Things like, "Don't tell him what we talked about, okay? He wouldn't get it. Last night was insane. I can't stop thinking about it. Promise me you'll keep this between us." My chest tightened as I scrolled. What the hell were they keeping from me? What last night was he talking about? I locked the phone quickly, my heart pounding. For a few minutes, I just sat there in the dark, listening to Emily breathe against me, wondering if I was overreacting. Maybe there was some logical explanation. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But deep down, a part of me knew. The next morning, I couldn't shake it. I told myself I'd confront Emily calmly, just ask straight up what was going on. But when I brought it up, carefully, casually, her reaction told me everything I needed to know. She froze. Her face went pale, and she stumbled over her words like a guilty kid caught sneaking out. "Ryan? Oh, we were just, talking about school. You know, his classes. He needed help with something, and..." "Emily." I cut her off. I saw the messages. Her mouth opened and closed like she couldn't figure out what to say. And in that silence, all the faith I'd built up in her cracked. "I swear it's not what you think," she said finally, her voice trembling. Nothing happened. We connected, okay? He's been going through stuff, and he needed someone to talk to. I didn't want to hurt you, so I kept it quiet. That's all. But I wasn't buying it. Because no one texts their boyfriend's brother, "Don't tell him what we talked about," unless there's something they don't want me to know. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. Instead, I just walked out. I needed air, space, anything to stop my head from spinning. For the next 2 days, I ignored both of them. Emily blew up my phone with apologies. Ryan sent me one half-assed message. "We should talk. Don't jump to conclusions." Jump to conclusions? I wanted to strangle him through the screen. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove over to Ryan's place unannounced. He looked surprised to see me, but not guilty. No, he had that same cocky grin he always wore, like nothing in the world could touch him. "Dude, relax," he said the moment I confronted him. "It's not like that. You're making this bigger than it is." "Then what is it?" I demanded. "Because from where I'm standing, you've been sneaking around with my girlfriend." He laughed, like I was the one being ridiculous. "Bro," she came to me. "She said you've been distant, that you don't get her sometimes." I was just being there for her. You know, like a good brother should. The smugness in his voice made my fists clench. He wasn't even trying to deny it. He was twisting it, making it sound like I was at fault for pushing her into his arms. I walked out before I did something I regret. But as I drove away, the rage inside me grew darker. Because betrayal from a stranger is one thing, but betrayal from your own brother? That's poison. And the worst part? I didn't even know the full truth yet. I wish I could say that confrontation with Ryan ended things right there. That I walked away, cut them both out of my life, and started to heal. But life never ties itself up that neatly. The reality is messier, uglier, and way harder to walk through than I expected. For the next few weeks, I was stuck in limbo. Emily kept trying to reach me, texting, calling, even showing up at my apartment unannounced. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. Part of me wanted to scream at her, demand the truth, force her to admit exactly what happened between her and Ryan. The other part of me, well, it wanted to believe her. Because despite everything, I still loved her. And love makes you stupid. It makes you ignore the obvious, just so you can cling to the picture you've been carrying in your head. The picture of a future you thought you were building with someone. Ryan, on the other hand, acted like nothing had changed. He'd send me dumb memes, or random texts about sports, as if we hadn't just had the ugliest argument of our lives. When I ignored him, he doubled down, sending messages like, "Don't be dramatic," or "Family's family. Bro, don't let a girl mess that up." That line, "Don't let a girl mess that up," echoed in my head for days. He was talking about Emily like she was disposable, like she wasn't a real person, but just a wedge driven between us. And maybe that's what she was in the end. But at the time, it felt like he was rubbing salt in the wound, mocking me for even caring. I didn't know who to talk to. I couldn't exactly unload this mess on our parents. They'd always favored Ryan anyway, brushing off his screw-ups as just Ryan being Ryan. My friends tried to give advice, but none of it felt right. Half of them told me to cut both of them off. The other half said I should hear Emily out before making a decision. But my gut told me I wasn't getting the whole story. One night, Emily begged me to meet her for coffee. I almost didn't go, but something in her voice sounded desperate, and I needed answers. When I showed up, she looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, like she hadn't been sleeping. The second she saw me, she burst into tears. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, clutching her cup like it was the only thing holding her together. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She wiped her face and finally admitted that, yes, something had happened with Ryan. "It was one time," she said quickly, as if rushing the words would make them hurt less. "I was drunk, he was drunk, and I don't even know how it started. But it was a mistake. A huge mistake. I felt sick the second it was over." Hearing her say it out loud was like being punched in the gut. I'd suspected, sure, but confirmation hits differently. It's final. It's real. I leaned back in my chair, my hands trembling under the table. "So you slept with my brother." Her eyes filled with tears again. "Please, don't say it like that. It makes it sound worse. How the hell else am I supposed to say it? Emily? That's what happened. That's exactly what it was." She covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. People at the other tables were starting to glance over, but I didn't care. Let them look. Let them see what betrayal does to someone. When she finally calmed down enough to speak, she whispered, "I love you." "Not him. You. I swear to God. It was nothing but a mistake. Please don't throw away what we have over one night of stupidity." Her words twisted the knife deeper, because a part of me wanted so badly to believe her. I wanted to rewind time to pretend I'd never seen those messages, never had this conversation, never found out at all. But another part of me, the part that still had some shred of self-respect, was screaming that love isn't supposed to hurt like this. Love isn't supposed to involve betrayal from the person who shares your blood. I walked out of that cafe without saying another word. The next day, Ryan showed up at my apartment. I didn't let him in, but he stood in the hallway like he owned the place. "Look, man," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "I know you're pissed, but it's not like Emily's a saint. She came on to me. You think I'm the bad guy here, but you're blind. She's been playing you." That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I yanked the door open and shoved him back. "You think this is a joke? You think betraying your brother is just another story you can laugh about later? You destroyed everything. You don't get to stand there and act like it's her fault." For once, he didn't have a smirk on his face. His jaw tightened, and for a second, I thought he might actually fight me. But then he shook his head and muttered, "Whatever, man. Believe what you want." And just like that, he walked away. I stood there shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. I realized then that neither of them was going to give me the closure I needed. Emily would keep begging for forgiveness, Ryan would keep shifting the blame, and I'd be stuck in the middle, drowning in their lies. If I wanted closure, I was going to have to take it. So I started digging. I went back through messages, social media posts, anything I could find that might show me when it started, how deep it went. The more I looked, the more pieces started falling into place. Nights Emily had claimed to be busy with school. Times Ryan had randomly bailed on our plans. Even little inside jokes between them that I'd brushed off at the time. It wasn't just one night. I could see it now. This had been going on for weeks, maybe months. And suddenly, I realized that the person I trusted most in the world wasn't just a liar. She was a liar who teamed up with my own brother to make a fool out of me. And I wasn't about to let that slide. The realization hit me like a car crash I never saw coming. For weeks I'd been convincing myself it was just one night, just a mistake, just something Emily and Ryan regretted. But sitting there with their messages, their patterns, the little lies I'd overlooked stacked up in front of me, I couldn't deny the truth anymore. They hadn't just slipped once. They'd been betraying me again and again, right under my nose. I don't remember sleeping that night. I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the rage building in me like pressure in a pipe about to burst. Every laugh Emily had shared with Ryan at family dinners, every time Ryan made some dumb joke and she smiled, every excuse she'd ever made, it all replayed in my head in a loop. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like Ryan was my brother anymore. He was just another guy who'd stabbed me in the back. The next morning, Emily showed up at my door again. She looked wrecked, eyes red, makeup smeared, clutching her phone like it was her lifeline. "Please," she begged the second I opened the door. "Can we just talk? I'll do anything. I can't lose you over this." I almost laughed in her face. Lose me? She already had. But I let her in because I wanted to hear her say it one more time. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and try to spin it like it wasn't as bad as it was. She sat on my couch, twisting her hands together. "It started after that fight we had in March," she said quietly. "You remember? You told me I was being distant, and I stormed out. I went to Ryan's. I don't even know how it happened, but it did. And after that, I couldn't stop thinking about him." The words cut deeper than any knife. She couldn't stop thinking about him. "And the messages?" I asked, my voice colder than I thought possible. She nodded miserably. "It went on for a while. I swear, I kept trying to stop. I wanted to tell you, but every time I saw you, I just froze. I didn't want to hurt you." I stood up so fast she flinched. "You didn't want to hurt me? You've been sleeping with my brother, Emily. You didn't just hurt me, you gutted me. And then you came back here, smiling, kissing me, telling me you loved me. You don't get to sit there and pretend it was noble silence. It was cowardice." Her tears spilled over again. She reached for me, but I stepped back. "I love you," she whispered. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I love you." I shook my head. "No, you love the thrill, the secrecy, the attention. You didn't love me. Not the way I deserve to be loved." That was the last time I saw her. Breaking up should have felt like relief, but instead, it felt like grieving someone who wasn't even dead. For weeks, I went through the motions at work, came home, and stared at the walls like they might give me answers. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt and sank at the same time. Ryan tried to reach out too, of course. His messages ranged from defensive, "Stop acting like a victim," to pitiful, "Come on, man, we're brothers. Don't shut me out." I blocked his number after the 10th one. But the anger didn't fade. It festered. One night, I found myself sitting in my car outside my parents' house. I knew Ryan was inside. He still lived in their basement, freeloading off them like he always had. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, wondering if I should go in and blow everything up. Tell them the truth about their golden boy. Watch their faces crumble when they realized what he'd done. But then I thought about it, really thought about it, and I realized something. They'd never believe me. They never had. To them, Ryan could do no wrong. If I said he slept with my girlfriend, they'd find a way to twist it to make it my fault. So I drove away. And that's when it hit me. Closure wasn't going to come from them. Not from Emily, not from Ryan, not even from my parents. The only person who could give me closure was me. So I made a choice. I cut them both off. Cold turkey. I deleted Emily's number, blocked her on every platform, threw out the pictures, the gifts, even the stupid playlist she'd made me. I blocked Ryan everywhere too, and when my parents asked why I wasn't coming around as much, I told them work was busy. I built my own piece by piece. It wasn't easy. Nights were the hardest, when the memories came creeping back, and I found myself replaying everything over and over, wondering what I missed, what I could have done differently. But slowly, the memories started losing their sharp edges. Slowly, the hole in my chest started to close. Months later, I ran into Emily at the grocery store. She looked different, thinner, tired, like life hadn't been kind to her. For a second, my heart twisted, but then I remembered everything, and the feeling passed. She gave me a small smile, like maybe we could pretend to be civil. I walked right past her without a word. As for Ryan, I don't know what he's doing these days. I stopped caring. He's not my brother anymore. Not in the ways that matter. And me? I'm okay now. Better, even. I learned the hardest lesson of my life. That betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people closest to you. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. That I can survive heartbreak, betrayal, and lies, and come out on the other side. If you're listening to this, and you've ever been through something similar, know this: you don't need closure from the people who hurt you. You only need closure from yourself. Walk away, heal, build something new. And hey, if you made it this far into the story, it means you connected with it on some level. Sharing these stories, reliving them, it takes a lot out of me, but knowing people are listening and finding something in them, it's what keeps me going. So if you want more stories like this, consider subscribing. Every time someone new joins in, it gives me the motivation to keep digging deep and bringing these raw, honest moments to life. People always tell you that family comes first, that blood is thicker than water, that no matter what, you can always rely on the people who share your DNA. I used to believe that too, until the night my own mother looked me in the eye and lied straight to my face in a way that changed my life forever. To really understand this, I need to back up a little. I grew up in a small town where everybody knew everybody. My parents weren't rich, but they were respected. My dad worked long hours at a factory, and my mom was the kind of woman who could host a church potluck, manage 3 kids, and still find time to volunteer for the PDA. To most people, she looked like Wonder Woman in an apron. And for the longest time, I thought she was. I was the oldest kid, the responsible one, the one who did my homework without being nagged and babysat my younger siblings while my parents worked. My brother, Mark, was 2 years younger than me, and my sister, Hannah, was the baby. Everyone said Mark was the golden child, the funny, charismatic one who got away with everything. I never really resented him for it. I figured that's just how families worked. Some kids got the spotlight, and some kept the lights on behind the scenes. By the time I was in my 20s, I was working full-time and living at home to save money. That's when I started noticing cracks in the picture-perfect image of my family. It started small. My mom would say she was running errands, but she'd be gone for hours. When I asked where she'd been, she'd give vague answers. Oh, just out, or I had to pick something up. At first, I didn't think much of it. She'd always been busy, always juggling a million things. But then I noticed something else. Mark was acting weird. Sneaking around, whispering on the phone, coming home late, and brushing me off when I asked where he'd been. One night, I caught him sneaking in through the back door around midnight. He jumped like I caught him stealing. "Relax," he said quickly. "I was just hanging out with friends." But his eyes told a different story. I brushed it off until I found out the truth in the ugliest way possible. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I came home from work earlier than usual. The house was quiet, which was weird because my mom's car was in the driveway. I figured maybe she was napping, so I went to the kitchen to grab something to eat. That's when I heard voices. Low, urgent voices coming from the living room. I froze, listening. It was my mom and Mark. I couldn't make out every word, but what I did hear made my stomach twist. "You can't keep doing this, Mark. If your father finds out." "He won't," Mark interrupted, his tone cocky and dismissive. "He's too busy working. He doesn't notice anything." My mom sighed. "You're gambling with more than money. You're gambling with this family's future. You need to stop." My blood ran cold. Gambling? I stepped into the room before I could stop myself. "What's going on?" They both spun around like they'd seen a ghost. My mom's face went pale, and Mark's jaw tightened. "It's nothing," my mom said quickly, her voice too bright, too fake. Just a private conversation. "With my brother about gambling?" I shot back. Mark rolled his eyes. "Jesus, you're always eavesdropping." "It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal." I stared at him. "Are you seriously gambling? With what money? You don't even have a job." That's when my mom did it. That's when she looked me dead in the eye and said, "He's not gambling. You misheard." Misheard. I knew damn well what I'd heard, but she was gaslighting me, trying to make me doubt myself. Protecting him at all costs, even if it meant lying to me. Mark smirked like he'd just won something, and in that moment, I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. because it wasn't just about gambling anymore. It was about realizing that in my mom's eyes, I wasn't the child worth protecting. Mark was always Mark. I stormed out of the house, my hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock my car. I sat there for almost an hour, replaying the conversation over and over, wondering if I was losing my mind. But I wasn't. I knew what I'd heard. I knew what was happening. And I knew this was only the beginning. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mom's face, her calm, deliberate lie. The way she dismissed what I knew I had heard. It wasn't just the lie itself. It was the realization behind it. She would rather protect Mark's secret than admit the truth to me. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I came down for breakfast, but the atmosphere in the kitchen was suffocating. My mom was making pancakes like nothing had happened, humming under her breath. Mark was scrolling on his phone with that smug little smirk that made me want to throw the syrup bottle at his head. "Morning," my mom said brightly, like she hadn't just gaslit me the day before. I sat down across from Mark and forced out a stiff "morning." He didn't even look up. The silence stretched between us, thick and awkward. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "So, we're just going to pretend yesterday didn't happen?" My mom froze, the spatula hovering over the pan. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about," I snapped. "I heard you both. I heard everything." Mark slammed his phone down. "Jesus, you're obsessed. I told you it's not a big deal. Drop it already." "Not a big deal." My voice rose. "You're gambling, and Mom is covering for you. What happens when Dad finds out? What happens when—" "Enough." My mom's voice cracked like a whip. She spun around, her face tight with anger I rarely saw. "You misheard. End of discussion." I stared at her, my chest tightening. "Why are you protecting him? Why is it always him?" Her eyes flickered just for a second, but it was enough. That tiny flash of guilt before she smoothed her face over. "You're overreacting. Your brother is going through a rough patch, and it's none of your business." None of my business. That stung more than anything else. I wasn't some random neighbor. I was her daughter, her oldest kid, the one who'd always been responsible. And now, when something was clearly wrong, she was telling me to stay out of it. I pushed away from the table so hard the chair screeched against the floor. "Fine, but don't expect me to clean up the mess when it blows up in your face." I grabbed my bag and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. The following weeks were hell. Mark's behavior spiraled. He was out later and later, coming home with bloodshot eyes and smelling like alcohol. He borrowed money from me twice, promising he'd pay it back, but of course he never did. Whenever I tried to call him out, my mom swooped in like a bodyguard. "Stop antagonizing your brother," she'd say. "Don't be so dramatic. He's just under stress." It was like living in a fun house where up was down and wrong was right. One night, I came home from work and found Mark pacing in the living room, his face pale and sweaty. He was muttering under his breath, running his hands through his hair. "What's going on?" I asked cautiously. He looked up, his eyes wild. "Nothing. Mind your own business." "Mark, drop it," he shouted and stormed upstairs, slamming his door so hard a picture fell off the wall. A few minutes later, my mom came rushing down the stairs, her face tight. She grabbed her purse and keys. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Out," she said shortly. "To deal with him?" Her jaw clenched, and she didn't answer. She just left. I stood there, staring at the closed door, my heart pounding. It felt like I was watching my family unravel in real time, and I was the only one who noticed. A few days later, it finally boiled over. It was a Friday night, and my dad had just gotten home from work. He was exhausted, rubbing his temples as he sat down at the table. My mom was flitting around, acting strangely cheerful. Mark wasn't home yet. Then, around 9, the front door burst open. Mark stumbled in, looking wrecked. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair a mess, his face pale. "Where the hell have you been?" my dad demanded. "Out," Mark muttered, trying to head upstairs. "Hold it," Dad snapped, his voice sharper than I'd heard in years. "You've been out every damn night. Your grades are slipping, you don't have a job, and now you're coming home looking like this? What's going on?" Mark froze on the stairs, his shoulders tense. For a second, I thought maybe, finally, Dad would get the truth out of him. But then my mom jumped in. "He's fine," she said quickly, stepping between them. He's just tired. Don't make a big deal out of it. A big deal. Dad's eyes narrowed. He looks like hell. And you want me to just ignore it? He's under a lot of pressure, she shot back. You don't understand what he's going through. And there was again. That wall. That shield. Protecting Mark at all costs. I couldn't take it anymore. The words spilled out before I could stop myself. He's gambling, Dad. That's where he's been going. I heard him and Mom talking about it weeks ago. The room went dead silent. My dad's head whipped toward my mom. Is that true? My mom's face drained of color. No, absolutely not. She's making things up. I gaped at her. Are you kidding me? You lied to me once, but you're not going to lie to him too. Enough, she barked, her voice trembling. But it was too late. My dad's expression told me he wasn't buying it. He turned back to Mark, his jaw tight. Is it true? Mark shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. It's not like that. My dad's voice dropped into a low, dangerous tone. Answer the question. Finally, Mark mumbled, yeah, I've been gambling, but it's under control. Under control. The same phrase every addict uses. I looked at my mom, waiting for her to finally admit it, to finally take my side. But instead, she placed a protective hand on Mark's arm. He's just made some mistakes, she pleaded. He'll do better. Don't be so hard on him. And that was the moment I realized the truth. She wasn't just covering for him. She was enabling him. My dad rubbed his face, looking 10 years older in a matter of minutes. We'll talk about this tomorrow, he muttered and walked away defeated. Mark shot me a glare full of venom, like I was the villain for exposing him. My mom gave me a look too, not of anger, but of disappointment, like I had betrayed her by telling the truth. And that was the night I stopped trusting either of them. The next weeks were chaos. My dad tried to lay down rules. No more late nights, no more money, no more excuses, but my mom kept undermining him. She gave Mark money behind Dad's back, covered for him when he broke curfew, and brushed off every warning sign. Meanwhile, Mark grew more reckless. He started disappearing for entire weekends. I overheard phone calls where he was begging someone for more time to pay them back. He looked worse every day, like the addiction was eating him alive, and I couldn't do a damn thing about it. Every time I tried, I was shut down. Every time I spoke up, I was the problem. One night, I caught my mom slipping Mark a wad of cash in the kitchen. Are you serious? I hissed. You're still giving him money? She turned on me, her face cold. It's not your place to question me. Not my place. He's destroying himself and this family. You're just feeding the fire. Her eyes hardened. You don't understand what it means to be a parent. When you're a mother, you'll understand. That cut deep, because in her eyes, love meant covering up lies, hiding the truth, and letting Mark sink deeper into his addiction. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and make her see what she was doing. But I knew it wouldn't matter. She had chosen her side, and it wasn't mine. Things didn't just fall apart all at once. They cracked slowly, piece by piece, until the whole structure collapsed. For weeks, I lived in a state of constant tension. Every time the phone rang, I braced myself for bad news. Every time Mark came home late, I wondered if this would be the night someone followed him to our doorstep. And every time I looked at my mom, I saw not my mother, but someone I didn't recognize anymore. Someone who would rather protect a lie than face the truth. The turning point came on a Tuesday night. I had just finished dinner when the doorbell rang. My dad was upstairs and my mom was washing dishes. Mark wasn't home. I opened the door to find two men standing there. They weren't much older than me, maybe mid-20s, but they had the kind of look that made my stomach twist. Hard eyes, fake smiles, trouble. Evening, one of them said smoothly, Mark here. My throat went dry. No, he's not home. The guy tilted his head, his smile never reaching his eyes. That's too bad. Tell him we stopped by. He knows what this is about. Before I could respond, my mom appeared behind me. Who is it? The man's smile widened. Ah, you must be Mom. Nice place you got here. Shame if something happened to it. Her face drained of color. Get off my porch, she snapped. The guy chuckled and stepped back. We'll be in touch. They walked away, slow and casual, like they owned the whole street. When I shut the door, my hand was shaking. My mom leaned against the wall, her face pale. For once, she didn't look calm or in control. She looked scared. What the hell was that about? I demanded. She shook her head quickly. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it? Mom, those guys were here threatening us. Her eyes darted toward the stairs, making sure my dad hadn't come down. Then she grabbed my arm, her grip like iron. Do not say a word to your father. Do you understand me? I pulled back, horrified. You're still protecting him? After this? She didn't answer. She just turned away, her shoulders stiff. That was when I realized the truth. She wasn't just protecting Mark. She was protecting herself. Because if my dad knew how long she'd been covering this up, how long she'd been enabling him, their marriage would implode. So instead of saving her son, she was saving her secret. The very next night, it all blew up. Mark came stumbling in around midnight, drunk out of his mind. My dad was waiting for him in the living room, sitting in his chair like a silent executioner. Where have you been? Dad asked flatly. Mark laughed, swaying on his feet. Out. Out where? None of your business. Dad stood up, his face like stone. It is my business when men come to my house looking for you. It's my business when you put this family at risk. Mark froze, blinking in confusion. His eyes flicked toward my mom, who was standing in the corner, wringing her hands. You told him? Mark accused. No, Mom said quickly. I didn't. I figured it out myself. Dad cut in. His voice was low, deadly. How much do you owe? Mark's face twisted. Don't worry about it. Answer me. Dad barked. Finally, Mark muttered, a few thousand. My dad's jaw tightened. A few thousand? Okay, maybe more, Mark admitted, his tone defensive. But I'm handling it. Handling it. Dad roared. You've been lying, stealing, dragging this family's name through the mud. And you call that handling it? Mark's smirk vanished. What do you want from me? I'm not perfect like your golden girl over there. He jabbed a finger toward me. Sorry, I'm not the perfect kid who never screws up. I stood there, stunned. This isn't about me, Mark. This is about you destroying your life. He sneered. You love this, don't you? Watching me fail makes you feel superior. I opened my mouth to argue, but my dad's voice cut through the room like a blade. Enough. He turned to my mom, his expression hard. How long have you known? Her lips parted, her face pale. How long? He repeated. Tears welled in her eyes. A while. My dad closed his eyes, like the words physically hurt him. And you said nothing. I was trying to protect him, she whispered. Protect him? Or protect yourself? The silence that followed was unbearable. My mom broke down, sobbing. Mark stormed upstairs, slamming his door so hard the walls rattled. And my dad just sank in his chair, staring at nothing. That was the night the family shattered. The days that followed were a blur. My dad started making calls, trying to figure out how to pay off Mark's debt without losing the house. He was furious at my mom, but he didn't yell. He didn't fight. He just shut down. Mark, on the other hand, acted like he was the victim. He sulked, he shouted, he blamed everyone but himself. He told me I had ruined his life by running my mouth. He told my mom she was the only one who understood him. And my mom? She doubled down. She clung to him tighter, defended him louder, and distanced herself from me completely. I felt like a stranger in my own home. The final straw came 2 weeks later. I came home from class and found my mom sitting at the kitchen table with a checkbook. Mark was pacing behind her, looking jittery. What's going on? I asked. Nothing, Mom said quickly, snapping the checkbook shut. But I'd seen the number on the check. 5 figures. More money than we could afford to lose. You can't be serious, I whispered. You're paying off his debt. He'll pay me back, she insisted. No, he won't. You're just throwing money into a black hole. Don't you see? You're killing him by saving him. Mark snarled. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. I turned on him. You're a liar and a coward, and you're dragging Mom down with you. He stepped closer, his face twisted with rage. For a second, I thought he might hit me, but my mom shoved herself between us. Enough. Both of you. I stared at her, my chest heaving. If you do this, Mom, if you give him that money, you're choosing him over all of us. Over me. Over Dad. Over this family. Her lips trembled, but she didn't put the checkbook down. That was when I knew she had already made her choice. I packed a bag that night. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Not with the lies, the secrets, the betrayal hanging in the air like poison. I moved in with a friend, telling my parents it was temporary, but Deep down, I knew I wasn't coming back. My dad didn't stop me. He just gave me a look of quiet understanding, like he knew why I had to leave. My mom barely acknowledged it. She was too busy fussing over Mark. And Mark? He didn't say a word. He just smirked like he had won. It's been months now. I've heard bits and pieces about what's happened since. My mom drained most of her savings bailing Mark out. He promised to change, but of course he didn't. He's still gambling, still lying, still dragging her down. My dad, I don't know. He's still there, but he's checked out. I think he's waiting until I graduate before he finally leaves. As for me, I've had to accept the harsh truth. Sometimes the people you love most will betray you, not because they don't care, but because they can't let go of their own illusions. My mom chose her son. My brother chose his addiction. And I chose to walk away. It hurts like hell, but it's the only way I'll survive. And maybe, someday, they'll realize what they've lost. Before I go, I just want to say this. Sharing these stories takes a lot out of me, but it also gives me purpose. If you've been through something similar, or if you just want more stories like this, hitting subscribe really does give me the motivation to keep going. It's the one thing that makes all this worth it, so I can bring you more.